When Barry Gibb turned 79, he finally opened up about the truth regarding Roy Orbison. Barry Gibb's full birth name was Barry Allen Crompton Gibb, and he was born on September 1, 1946, in Douglas, on the Isle of Man. He is recognized as one of the most important and lasting figures in popular music history. He was the second child out of 5, born to Hugh and Barbara Gibb. From a very young age, it was obvious that Barry had a special talent for music. His natural ability to create melodies and write songs made him stand out. By his teenage years, he was already building what would eventually become the famous Bee Gees. Together with his younger twin brothers, Robin and Maurice Gibb, Barry moved with his family to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, during the late 1950s. It was in Australia that the boys first became known as performers, doing local shows and perfecting their vocal harmonies that would later define their signature sound. Barry quickly became the creative leader of the group, serving not only as their main singer, but also as their primary songwriter. His high-pitched falsetto voice would eventually become famous, but even in those early days, his talent for writing emotionally powerful lyrics and catchy melodies was clear to see. During the 1960s, the Gibb family moved back to England to find bigger opportunities in the music world. It was in London where the Bee Gees first achieved international fame. Songs like New York Mining Disaster 1941, To Love Somebody, and Massachusetts made them one of the top vocal groups of that time. These songs showed Barry's talent as a songwriter who could mix storytelling with emotion and connect strongly with people of all ages. The 1970s brought a complete transformation for the Bee Gees, and Barry was at the center of this change. When disco music became popular, Barry's falsetto-led sound, heard in hits like Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love, became the defining sound of that era. The group's work on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack made them cultural icons and secured their place in music history forever. The soundtrack sold millions and millions of copies around the world, won Grammy Awards, and permanently connected the Bee Gees with the golden era of disco. Barry's soaring vocals and exceptional songwriting talent made him one of the most recognizable and admired figures in music. In 2001, the legendary Bee Gees completed a significant chapter in music history by releasing what would become their last studio album, Islands in the Stream. This album, filled with the group's trademark harmonies and emotional storytelling, represented the peak of decades of revolutionary work that had already changed the world of pop, disco, and rock music. However, for Barry Gibb, the end of the Bee Gees as a recording group didn't mean the end of his creative work. In many ways, it marked the start of a very personal and richly collaborative new phase. The next year, in 2002, Barry went into the studio with Michael Jackson, who was both a friend and a fellow music icon. Together, they recorded the song All in Your Name, which came from their mutual respect and shared goal of using music to promote unity and love. The song was a touching reminder of the connection between two of the most important figures in modern music, combining Barry's distinctive warmth with Jackson's powerful energy. Fans celebrated the collaboration as a historic meeting of legends that proved Barry's continued importance in a quickly changing music industry. As the years went on, Barry turned his attention to more personal and intimate projects. One of the most meaningful moments during this time was when he sang background vocals on Living in the Rain, a single his son, Steve Gibb, released. This wasn't just musical support, it showed Barry's deep pride in watching his children continue the family's artistic tradition. At the same time, Barry kept creating new music himself, releasing heartfelt songs like Drown on the River, Gray Ghost, and Daddy's Little Girl. Each of these songs revealed a different aspect of his artistry, whether it was storytelling influenced by Americana, thoughtful ballads, or sweet expressions of being a father. In 2007, Barry strengthened his position as a respected senior figure in music when he became a judge on American Idol during its 6th season. For millions of viewers, watching him mentor aspiring singers was truly inspirational. His presence brought both credibility and warmth, as he encouraged young talent to pursue their dreams with the same dedication that had taken him from modest beginnings in Australia to worldwide stardom. This role introduced Barry to a new generation of fans who might have only heard of the Bee Gees by name, giving them a chance to see the humanity and artistry of the man behind the famous hits.
Beyond the Bee Gees, Barry also showed an amazing ability to write and produce songs for other artists. He wrote hits for legends, including Barbra Streisand, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, Diana Ross, and Dionne Warwick, among many others. His flexibility as a songwriter proved he could create hits across different genres, pop, country, and R&B, always with the same sensitivity and musical brilliance that defined his own performances. Despite personal tragedies, including the devastating losses of his brothers Maurice in 2003 and Robin in 2012, Barry kept carrying the Bee Gees' legacy forward with dignity and strength. He handled these difficult times with resilience, often speaking about his brothers with love and deep respect, while continuing to honor their memory through his music. His ability to keep going and stay committed to his art has made him not only a celebrated musician, but also a symbol of strength and dedication. Barry's career has lasted more than 6 decades. During that time, he has sold hundreds of millions of records, won countless awards, and received some of the highest honors in the music world. In 1997, the Bee Gees were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Barry himself was knighted in 2018 for his contributions to music and charity, becoming Sir Barry Gibb. These honors only confirm what fans have always known, that Barry Gibb's contributions to music are timeless and beyond measure. On August 22, 1966, Barry Gibb, who was then an emerging star gaining recognition as a member of the Bee Gees with his brothers, took an important step in his personal life by marrying Maureen Bates. At that time, Barry was still a young man in his late teens, managing both the demands of a music career and the responsibilities of being married. Maureen, who had been part of Barry's early life before the family became famous, represented a connection to a quieter, more stable lifestyle than the one he would soon experience as an international celebrity. Their marriage, however, wasn't meant to last. The pressures of Barry's quickly growing music career, along with the challenges of being married at such a young age, put tremendous strain on their relationship. Despite their attempts to make it work, the marriage was brief. After less than 4 years together, Barry and Maureen divorced, ending this chapter of his early personal life. Even though their relationship didn't survive, it marked an important developmental period in Barry's life, as he learned to balance the intense spotlight of fame with the challenges of love and personal responsibility. Just a few years later, Barry Gibb found lasting love. On September 1, 1970, which was his own 24th birthday, Barry married someone who would define the rest of his life. He married Linda Gray, a former English beauty queen who had previously won the title of Miss Edinburgh. Linda was admired not just for her beautiful appearance, but also for her intelligence, elegance, and supportive personality. From the start, Barry and Linda shared a deep connection, and their marriage would become one of the lasting partnerships in the entertainment world. Unlike his first marriage, this union gave Barry a foundation of stability and constant support, something that proved essential as he and his brothers achieved even greater fame in the 1970s with the Bee Gees' worldwide success. Together, Barry and Linda created a large and loving family. They were blessed with 5 children, each of whom brought happiness and meaning to their lives. Their first son, Stayin, followed his father's path and pursued a music career, becoming a respected guitarist and songwriter, even performing with his father and uncles at times. Their second son, Ashley, chose a quieter life away from public attention, focusing instead on personal interests and family. Their third son, Travis, also lived more privately, showing how Barry and Linda's children had the freedom to choose their own paths without being overshadowed by their father's enormous legacy. Their youngest son, Michael, was named after the late pop superstar Michael Jackson, showing Barry's friendship and respect for him. Finally, their only daughter, Alexandra, brought balance to the family and was deeply cherished by both Barry and Linda as the youngest and only girl among her 4 brothers. Throughout the years, Barry frequently talked about how important Linda and their children were to him. Despite his busy schedule as a world-famous musician, songwriter, and performer, Barry always stressed the importance of family, and Linda became his foundation during the unpredictable highs and lows of life in the public eye.
Their long-lasting marriage stood as a rare example in show business of a relationship that not only lasted but became stronger over time, giving Barry the love, loyalty, and stability that helped him maintain a career lasting more than 6 decades. For many years, Barry Gibb, the last living member of the Bee Gees, has carried the burden of both his family's amazing musical legacy and the friendships he formed with some of the greatest artists of the 20th century. Among those legendary figures was Roy Orbison, a man whose haunting voice, dark sunglasses, and mysterious presence created a unique place in rock and roll history. Now at age 79, Barry Gibb has shared in a very personal way what Roy Orbison truly meant to him, not just as a fellow artist, but as a source of inspiration and friendship that influenced his own musical journey. "Roy had one of the most amazing voices I have ever heard in my life," Barry said. "It wasn't just singing, it was almost like he was pulling something down from the heavens. You could feel every bit of pain, joy, and longing in that voice. Nobody could do what Roy could do." Barry Gibb clearly remembers how, as a young man growing up with his brothers Robin and Maurice, Roy Orbison's music wasn't just popular, it was eye-opening. While Elvis Presley inspired many aspiring performers, Orbison's songs like Crying, Only the Lonely, and Oh Pretty Woman showed Barry and many others how powerful it could be to put raw emotion into music. Roy's songs weren't just catchy, they were heartbreaking, Barry remembered. He had this way of singing about loneliness and loss that made you feel like he was telling your own story. I think every artist deep down is always trying to reach that kind of honesty. But Barry's respect went beyond just the music. He recalls meeting Roy Orbison in person for the first time, describing it as both unreal and humbling. "Roy was very quiet when he wasn't performing," Barry explained. "He wasn't one of those larger-than-life personalities when the spotlight was off. He was gentle, polite, even shy, and then he'd step up to the microphone and suddenly he was a giant. It was like watching a complete transformation. That always amazed me." Over the years, the Bee Gees and Roy Orbison often met in the music industry, and Barry said those meetings always left a strong impression. "There was never any ego with Roy. You have to understand, in this business it's very easy for people to get caught up in their own legend. But Roy didn't have to say much. He let his music speak, and in my mind, that made him even more powerful." Barry also mentioned how Orbison's career had ups and downs, much like the Bee Gees experienced themselves. After ruling the charts in the early 1960s, Roy faced personal tragedies and a time when his music was less commercially successful. But then came the late 1980s, when Orbison found a new audience through collaborations like the Traveling Wilburys with Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and George Harrison. "Seeing Roy make that comeback was amazing," Barry said. "It was like the world finally caught up with what some of us had known all along, that Roy was timeless. His voice didn't age, his artistry didn't fade. If anything, he grew even more powerful with time." For Barry, watching Roy rise again was both inspiring and sad, especially since Orbison died suddenly in 1988 at the age of 52. "I was devastated when I heard the news," Barry admitted. "I felt like the world had lost one of its greatest treasures, and I also felt personally grateful that I had lived in a time when I could hear him sing live, when I could meet him, when I could call him a friend." Looking back now, Barry Gibb reflects on how much of Roy Orbison's influence still remains in his own music and in the wider world of popular culture. "Every time I walk into a studio, there's a part of me that asks, would Roy approve of this? Would he think this is real? Because Roy never faked anything. That's the legacy he left for all of us." In his final thoughts, Barry expressed his feelings about Orbison in words that were both gentle and deeply respectful. "Roy wasn't just a singer, he was an emotion, a spirit, something bigger than all of us. He taught me that music isn't about showing off, it's about truth. and for that, I will always be in his debt. As Barry sits in his home today, surrounded by gold records, family photographs, and a lifetime of memories, his words about Roy Orbison reveal something profound about the nature of artistry itself. In an industry often driven by competition and ego, Barry's tribute stands as a testament to the power of mutual respect between giants. His voice may carry the weight of age now, but the reverence with which he speaks of Orbison is as clear and strong as the falsetto that once defined an era. What makes Barry's tribute particularly moving is the vulnerability within it. Here is a man who has achieved everything imaginable in music: global fame, critical acclaim, knighthood. Yet he speaks of Roy Orbison with the humility of a student remembering his teacher. This isn't false modesty, it's the wisdom of someone who understands that true greatness in music isn't measured by record sales or awards, but by the ability to touch the human soul in ways that transcend time and trends. The connection between Barry Gibb and Roy Orbison represents more than just admiration between contemporaries. It speaks to a lineage of authenticity that runs through rock and roll history like a golden thread. From Orbison's operatic ballads of heartbreak to the Bee Gees' soaring harmonies, both artists understood that vulnerability is not weakness, it's the very foundation of connection. They knew that audiences don't just want to hear music, they want to feel understood, to know that someone else has walked through the darkness and emerged with a song that makes sense of it all. At 79, Barry Gibb's words serve as both a tribute and an honest confession. After decades of fame, loss, and survival, his admiration for Roy Orbison shines with a clarity that only comes with age. It is the kind of truth that connects two legacies, one belonging to the man in the dark glasses, and the other to the last surviving brother of the Bee Gees, who still carries forward the values of honesty, melody, and memory. In opening up about Roy Orbison, Barry has given us more than just a celebrity anecdote. He's offered a masterclass in humility, a reminder that even legends look up to other legends, and that the greatest artists are often those who never stop being students of the craft they love. As long as Barry Gibb continues to speak, to create, and to remember, the spirit of Roy Orbison, and of all those who believed in music as truth, will never truly fade. The conversation between these two artists may have been cut short by mortality, but their dialogue continues through the music they created and the lives they touched. And in that dialogue, we hear something eternal. The sound of human beings reaching for something greater than themselves, and finding it in 3 minutes of perfectly crafted melody and truth. Now we want to hear from you. Which Roy Orbison song do you think influenced the Bee Gees the most, and can you hear his impact in their music? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your perspectives on these musical legends. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the friendship and mutual respect between Barry Gibb and Roy Orbison, smash that like button to help others discover this story. Share this video with any music lovers in your life who appreciate the artistry and authenticity of the golden age of rock and roll. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our explorations of the untold stories behind music's greatest legends. These are the stories that deserve to be remembered. Let's keep the conversation going together.